Today, I'm breaking down how the former Google CEO just made the strongest case for Palantir without even mentioning the company. I'm going to be reacting to a clip from Eric Schmidt. He ran Google for 10 years and now advises the Pentagon on AI strategy. Eric has seen both sides, building tech giants and protecting national security. I'm going to walk through the key moments in this conversation and show you how Schmidt's warnings about AI competition paint the exact picture of why Palantir's approach is essential to managing, scaling, and properly utilizing AI.
That brings us nicely to the dilemmas, and let's just say there are a lot of them when it comes to this technology. The first one I'd love to start with, Eric, is the exceedingly dual-use nature of this tech, right? It's applicable to both civilian and military applications. So how do you broadly think about the dilemmas and ethical quandaries that come with this tech and how humans deploy them?
In many cases, we already have doctrines about personal responsibility. A simple example, I did a lot of military work and continue to do so. The US military has a rule called 3000.09, generally known as human in the loop, or meaningful human control. You don't want systems that are not under our control. It's a line we can't cross. I think that's correct. I think that the competition between the West, and particularly the United States, and China is going to be defining in this area. And I'll give you some examples. First, the current government has now put in essentially reciprocating 145% tariffs. That has huge implications for the supply chain. We in our industry depend on packaging and components from China that are boring, if you will, but incredibly important. The little packaging and the little glue things and so forth that are part of the computers. If China were to deny access to them, that would be a big deal. We are trying to deny them access to the most advanced chips, which they're super annoyed about. Dr. Kissinger asked Craig and I to do track 2 dialogues with the Chinese, and we're in conversations with them. What's the number one issue they raise? This issue. Indeed, if you look at DeepSeek, which is really impressive, they managed to find algorithms that got around the problems by making them more efficient.
Right.
Because China is doing everything open source, open weights, we immediately got the benefit of their invention and have adopted it into US things. So we're in a situation now, which I think is quite tenuous, where the US is largely driving, for many, many good reasons, largely closed models, largely under very good control. China is likely to be the leader in open source unless something changes. And open source leads to very rapid proliferation around the world. This proliferation is dangerous at the cyber level and the bio level. But let me give you why it's also dangerous in a more significant way, in a nuclear threat way. Dr. Kissinger, who we all worked with very closely, was one of the architects of mutual assured destruction, deterrence, and so forth. And what's happening now is you've got a situation where, I'll use an example. It's easier if I explain. You're the good guy, and I'm the bad guy, okay? You're 6 months ahead of me, and we're both on the same path for superintelligence, and you're going to get there, right? And I'm sure you're going to get there. You know, you're that close, and I'm 6 months behind. Pretty good, right? Sounds pretty good. No, these are network effect businesses, and in network effect businesses, it is the slope of your improvement that determines everything. So I use OpenAI or Gemini. They have 1,000 programmers. They're in the process of creating 1 million AI software programmers. What does that do? First, you don't have to feed them except electricity. So that's good. And they don't quit and things like that. Second, the slope is like this. Well, as we get closer to superintelligence, the slope goes like this. If you get there first, you dastardly person,
You're never going to be able to catch me.
I will not be able to catch you. And I've given you the tools to reinvent the world and in particular, destroy me. That's how my brain, Mr. Evil, is going to think. So what am I going to do?
Sabotage.
The first thing I'm going to do is try to steal all your code. And you've prevented that because you're good. And you were good. So you're still good at Google. Second, then I'm going to infiltrate you with humans. Well, you've got good protections against that. You know, we don't have spies. So what do? I'm going to go in and I'm going to change your model. I'm going to modify it. I'm going to actually screw you up to get me so I'm one day ahead of you. And you're so good, I can't do that. What's my next choice? Bomb your data center.
Wow.
Now, do you think I'm insane? These conversations are occurring around nuclear opponents today in our world. There are legitimate people saying the only solution to this problem is preemption. Now, I just told you that you, Mr. Good, are about to have the keys to control the entire world, both in terms of economic dominance, innovation, surveillance, whatever it is that you care about. I have to prevent that. We don't have any language in our society. The foreign policy people have not thought about this, and this is coming. When is it coming? Probably 5 years. We have time. We have time for this conversation, and this is really important.
Let me push on this a little bit. So if this is true and we can end up in this sort of standoff scenario and sort of the equivalent of mutually assured destruction, you've also said that the US should embrace open source AI, even after China's DeepSeek showed what's possible with a fraction of the compute. But doesn't open sourcing these models just like hand capabilities to adversaries that'll accelerate their own timelines?
This is one of the wickedest, or we call them wicked hard problems. Our industry, our science, everything about the world that we have built is based on academic research, open source, so forth. Much of Google's technology was based on open source. Some of Google's technology is open source, some of it is proprietary, perfectly legitimate. What happens when there's an open source model that is really dangerous and it gets into the hands of the Osama bin Ladens of the world? And we know there are more than one, unfortunately. We don't know. The consensus in the industry right now is the open source models are not quite at the point of national or global danger. But you can see a pattern where they might get there. So a lot will now depend upon the key decisions made in the US and China and in the companies in both places. The reason I focus on the US and China is they're the only two countries where people are crazy enough to spend the billions and billions of dollars that are required to build this new vision. Europe, which would love to do it, doesn't have the capital structure to do it. Most of the other countries, not even India, has the capital structure to do it, although they wish to. Arabs don't have the capital structure to do it, although they're working on it. So this fight, this battle, will be the defining battle. I'm worried about this fight. Dr. Kissinger talked about the likely path to war with China was by accident. And he was a student of World War I. And of course, World War I started with a small event, and it escalated over that summer in, I think, 1914. And then it was this horrific conflagration. You can imagine a series of steps along the lines of what I'm talking about that could lead us to a horrific global outcome. That's why we have to be paying attention.
I want to talk about one of the recurring tensions here before we move on to the dreams is to sort of moderate these AI systems at scale, right? There's this weird tension in AI safety that the solution to preventing 1984 often sounds a lot like 1984. So proof of personhood is a hot topic. Moderating these systems at scale is a hot topic. How do you view that trade-off, right? Like in trying to prevent dystopia, let's say preventing non-state actors from using these models in undesirable ways, we might accidentally end up building the ultimate surveillance state.
It's really important that we stick to the values that we have in our society. I am very, very committed to individual freedom. It's very easy for a well-intentioned engineer to build a system which is optimized and restricts your freedom. So it's very important that human freedom be preserved in this. A lot of these are not technical issues, they're really business decisions. It's certainly possible to build a surveillance state, but it's also possible to build one that's freeing. The conundrum that you're describing is because it's now so easy to operate based on misinformation, everyone knows what I'm talking about, that you really do need proof of identity. But proof of identity does not have to include details. So for example, you could have a cryptographic proof that you are a human being, and they could actually be true without anything else, and also not be able to link it to others using various cryptographic techniques.
So zero knowledge proofs and other techniques like
zero knowledge proofs are the most obvious.
What we just heard was pretty incredible. The former Google CEO basically laid out Palantir's entire strategy without realizing it. Eric is describing a world where AI leadership determines who wins and who loses, and every scenario he talks about shows why companies like Palantir aren't just important. They're absolutely necessary for American security. Quick plug, most people underestimate how powerful YouTube is for growing business revenue. One of my clients converts at 10% from paid ads, but 30% from the organic traffic we built from scratch for him in the last 12 months. That's 3 times better. If your business isn't using YouTube for organic growth, you must really hate money. If you want to see how I could help your business, book a call using the link below. Eric explains that the US-China AI race is defining everything and describes how China's open approach versus America's closed models creates serious security risks. He notes China is pretty upset about chip restrictions, but leads in open source AI development, and this spread of technology is dangerous at the cyber and bio levels. China's open approach means rapid global spread of potentially dangerous capabilities. This is exactly why Palantir's government contracts are so valuable and secure. Eric is describing a tech cold war where controlling AI development becomes a matter of survival. Palantir's secure platforms that serve the US government and allies directly fix the risks Eric is talking about. While China floods the world with open source AI that anyone can access and potentially weaponize, Palantir builds the controlled, secure AI systems that keep America's advantages under American control. This is why Palantir isn't just a business opportunity, it's a national security must-have that guarantees long-term government support. Eric also warns that whoever reaches superintelligence first also gains permanent advantage due to network effects and the exponential improvement that comes with it. He's predicting this could happen within 5 years. Eric describes how AI companies are creating 1 million AI software programmers and explains that being 6 months behind in superintelligence means you will not be able to catch up because the leader gets tools to remake the world. Eric describes how AI companies are creating 1 million AI software programmers and explains that being 6 months behind in superintelligence means you just won't be able to catch up. He's basically just explained why Palantir's current AI leadership position is incredibly valuable. The network effects and exponential improvement that he describes mean that Palantir's head start in government AI creates a compounding advantage. Their AIP platform isn't just another AI tool, it's infrastructure that will determine who controls superintelligence development. With only 5 years until this becomes potentially a very high stakes environment, every government contract Palantir wins today builds the foundation that could determine national survival. This timeline urgently explains why Palantir's government relationships are so strategically valuable. Eric also highlights the critical importance of human in the loop and meaningful human control. In high stakes military environments, you don't want systems that are not under our control. Eric specifically mentions his military work and states that this is a line we can't cross, highlighting that maintaining human control over AI systems is a non-negotiable in high stakes environment. Again, this is where Palantir's track record becomes proof of their skills. Eric is describing exactly what Palantir has been perfecting for over 20 years. AI systems that help human decision making without replacing human control. Their platforms in military operations, intelligence agencies, and critical government functions all keep human oversight while dramatically improving capabilities. When Eric talks about not crossing the line of human control, he's describing exactly the balance Palantir has mastered in the highest stakes environments possible. Palantir has proven they can build AI to help human decision making in life or death situations while maintaining the control Eric says is essential. Their track record in these environments is unmatched. They understand how to scale AI responsibly and effectively. Eric's arguably just given us one of the most powerful validations of Palantir's strategic importance that I've ever heard. The former Google CEO described a world where AI leadership determines national survival, where a 5-year timeline creates extreme urgency, and where smart adversaries will use every method possible to undermine American AI development. Every scenario Eric outlined represents exactly the threats that Palantir's secure government platforms are designed to counter. Eric's warning that foreign policy people haven't thought this through, while this issue is coming at a potentially accelerated rate, perfectly explains Palantir's opportunity. They're ahead of the rest of the market, and they're also ahead of the threats which could define the next decade of global competition.